Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the final Knowledge and Porridge of 2024. I cannot believe I'm saying that. We've had 6 sessions this year, and I'm very, very grateful to have, I think it's nearly 130 of you here today. So today's session is going to focus on sexual harassment, and sexual harassment in particular at Christmas parties as we enter the festive season. So you're going to leave this session with some top tips and some things to make sure that you do. So to tick off your never-ending to-do list to make sure that everyone can properly enjoy the Christmas party season. Can you believe, though, how many Christmas presents the new Labour government have already given to us already incredibly busy HR and employment law practitioners? And they decided to deliver one huge one on October the 26th. And it's the brand new sexual harassment duty. You will probably have had to have been on another planet in the world of HR to not have heard about this new duty. It was actually the Tories that brought it in. Labour confirmed that they were absolutely going through with keeping it on the agenda for change. And we think they're probably going to go one step further and possibly enhance it. So watch this space for any other changes. So it does seem somewhat apt that the mandatory duty on employers to take reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace has come into force just in time for this year's Christmas party season. Now, we all know that employers have legally been required to provide a safe and supportive environment for all staff for a long, long time. But this duty takes things significantly further. But don't worry, just before we're all listening to Jingle Bells on repeat, we are going to reassure you about the Christmas party season. I will be asking you to engage with this session, so there's going to be a chat box function, so please do interact with that and we can have a really enjoyable session. So, moving on to our scenario today. You have organised the best Christmas party at the trendiest venue in town, a bar called Day One Rights. It's an old converted mill with all of the original features, including uneven floors, nooks and crannies, and even the old vault, complete with a lockable door. People will really be able to switch off from work and their personal life as there's no phone signal or Wi-Fi there. You really want to reward all of your staff for their hard work this year. So you generously arranged for there to be an unlimited free bar. You've even asked the bar manager to order in extra spirits so everyone can have shots. And you have asked for the venue to have some canapes on standby, just in case people need some food to soak up the alcohol later that night. The office manager, Angela Rayner, has done a cracking job, and she's done a final venue check and has reported back that the space looks fab. It looks really Christmassy, apparently, and there's tinsel and mistletoe everywhere. Angela's even joked that she hopes her boss, Keir, takes advantage of the mistletoe. The venue is about an hour away from the office. So some people will be driving there or walking from the bus or train stop that's only about 20 minutes from the mill. As the venue is a little remote, you have decided to pay for hotel rooms for everyone at a local hotel so they can stay out as long as they want to. You don't have an unlimited budget, unfortunately, though, so you book twin rooms. You're sure that people won't mind sharing with a colleague. But anyway, you've checked the temperature in the room and you asked Boris Johnson and Donald Trump from the sales team for their views, and they said nobody would have an issue with room sharing. They said it would add to the fun and help people bond. So, who's excited for this Christmas party? Right, come on, engage with me. What are the HR hotspots in the scenario that I've just described? So enter into the chat box function. What are the issues? What are the red flags? What are you seeing that you think, oh my goodness, I can't believe Angela Rayner is organising a Christmas party like this? So go on, start typing into the chat box function. Brilliant. We've got some ones coming in here. Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. So the venue straight away is a health and safety risk. Uneven floors, probably going to be lots of people wearing high heels, stilettos. You wouldn't dream of having an office floor that was incredibly uneven. So yeah, already thinking a health and safety risk, the venue itself. A concern straight away would be anyone with mobility issues, the way that that venue's been described. Free bar, absolutely. Quite a few of you have nailed that as an issue straight away. An unlimited free bar, it is an extension of the workplace, your Christmas party, okay? So an unlimited free bar is absolutely a HR red flag. Debbie, thank you. Yeah, you nailed it. Health and safety risk assessment. That's really actually one of the tricky ones to spot that lots of people don't. So well done for that one, Debbie. Jenna, absolutely. Shots, definitely. We always advise our clients to be saying, generally speaking, make sure that nobody's allowed, even able to order shots. So we would say, you would say to the bar manager, not order extra shots in. You say, shots are not permitted, shots are not allowed. Again, I would say doubles. If you're going to allow spirits, nobody's allowed to order doubles. So Debbie, absolutely spot on. Room sharing, that is sexual harassment red flag, absolutely. So it would be inappropriate to expect colleagues to be sharing a room. So absolutely, that is a red flag. If you do have a free bar, it is likely with the new duty that's been brought in, it is likely that that would be seen as a red flag. And it would probably weaken the defence if any action were to be brought against the company. So it would probably weaken a defence if you were to offer a free bar, just free reign to have as much alcohol as possible. Food, just basically saying to the venue, oh, put some food, some canapes on standby just in case we need people to soak up the alcohol. You should really making sure that it's not just, a drink fest, that you need to be providing people with food and drink as well. Ian, absolutely on the money there. Yeah, again, free shots, unlimited bar. It just is giving the impression possibly of, irresponsibility when there's no food, there's a free bar, there's shots being provided. The fact as well that it's been in the middle of nowhere essentially, so they're talking about it's a 20-minute walk from the local train station. Not offering transport can be an issue. People may have to get a lift, feel obliged to get a lift with someone that perhaps don't feel comfortable being in a car with alone. Also, you absolutely need to be warning people about drink driving being illegal, and the fact that absolutely discouraged. If there's not any public transport available, you do need to be seeing that potentially as well as a red flag. So yeah, there's quite a lot of red flags with this scenario that we're describing. Mistletoe, plenty of mistletoe around the venue. Angela's already clocked it. She's hoping Kay clocks it. That could create potentially the wrong impression, particularly after a few drinks, and it could be seen to encourage risque behaviour. So they are red flags that we're seeing in that scenario. And finally, I'm surprised that no one mentioned this one, a vault with a lockable door. Oh my goodness. So sexual harassment can even be happening and no one is even aware of it. Okay. So a vault with a lockable door, that's also a red flag. Moving on now to the next slide. Well, why are we talking about sexual harassment? Well, there's obviously the new duty, so the 26th of October, our new preventative duty that puts that legal responsibility, that onus now on us, on employers, to making sure that we have anticipated how sexual harassment could happen in our workplace. And it's now this preventative duty. So we have to prove that we've done all that we can to prevent it from happening in our workplace. Risk assessments, if there's one thing you take away from this webinar, you must, if you've not already done it, do a risk assessment for sexual harassment in your workplace. If anyone is saying to you that you can just have a one-size-fits-all template policy, that is absolutely incorrect. It must be tailored to your business, okay? So please make sure you take that home. This slide, so some of my more avid Knowledge and Porridge subscribers, you may think, Jen, hang on a minute, you're rehashing old material here. This was included, this slide, in my active bystander training in February this year. What is really, really depressing, and the reason why this slide is appearing again at the end of the year, is because this slide, the material on this slide, started life as one slide. And lo and behold, at the end of the year, I now have to make it 2 slides because of the further incidents of sexual harassment in the workplace that have been reported in 2024. So for those of you who didn't attend the session at the start of the year, the top left slide is an image of surgeons, okay? It is widely accepted there is a culture of silence around sexual harassment in the world of surgery. They are not my words. They are taken directly from the British Journal of Surgery in 2023. And that was in response to a survey that was conducted. A report was published in the Journal of Surgery, and it was the first attempt to get a sense of the scale of the problem of sexual harassment in the workplace and in the world of surgery. Registered surgeons, men and women, were invited to participate. They completed it anonymously. Nearly 1,500 responded, half of which were women. The stats you will be astonished by. 63% of women have been targeted of sexual harassment by colleagues, okay? So 63% of women have been the target of sexual harassment by colleagues. 30% of women had been sexually assaulted by a colleague. 11% of female surgeons reported forced physical contact related to career opportunities. At least 11 incidents of rape were reported. 90% of women and 81% of men had witnessed some form of sexual misconduct. And whilst the report shows that men are also subject to some of this behaviour, 24% said they'd been sexually harassed, it concluded that men and women surgeons are living different realities. So the slide that says, why is everyone talking about sexual harassment? We need to be, because this is still a huge, huge issue. Top right, Russell Brand, again, back in the news at the minute. Russell Brand remains facing accusations of rape, sexual assaults, emotional abuse over a 7-year period at the height of his fame when he was an employee of the BBC. And he was also a Hollywood actor at the time. The actor-comedian is said to have behaved highly inappropriately at work, including by undressing, making sexual remarks, and acting very aggressively towards female employees. The bottom right, the renowned DJ Tim Westwood, MTV, BBC employee. He's been accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women who claim he misused his position of trust in the music industry to take advantage of them. 3 women have accused him of opportunistic and predatory sexual behaviour in the workplace, and 4 others allege that they were groped by him at events. McDonald's will all recognise that logo, household name, global name. The McDonald's UK boss has admitted within the last 12 months that the fast food chain is receiving between 1 or 2 sexual harassment claims a week, and that was following a BBC investigation, and this is last year. Alistair McCrow told MPs when he was summoned to speak to them that it had received more than 400 complaints last year from workers when the BBC had uncovered hundreds of allegations. He said at that point in summer last year that 18 people had already been sacked. He didn't though know how many complaints had been referred to the police. The BBC had found that workers as young as 17, this will be a lot of people's first job, won't it? Their first experience of the workplace. So people as young as 17 were being groped and harassed. One young employee had been exposed to by a male manager. The people interviewed said they'd experienced a toxic workplace culture at McDonald's where claims of sexual assault, racism, bullying were not taken seriously. IKEA were told to protect its staff in the UK from sexual harassment over concerns about how it had handled an allegation from a former employee at one of its stores. IKEA and McDonald's both signed a legal agreement with the Equality and Human Rights Commission, committing to an action plan to protect its staff in the UK more. That is unheard of. Both of them entering into legal contracts to say we will do better and we will protect our employees better with regards to sexual harassment. And the new slide. Again, you would have to have been on another planet to have not heard the horrific allegations about Mohammed Al Fayed. The BBC investigation exposed decades of serial sexual abuse allegations against Al Fayed, the former owner of the luxury department store Harrods. He actually died last year. He's accused of multiple counts of the most extreme form that you will come across of rape, attempted rape, sexual assault by several, dozens. The BBC yesterday, it was one of their top 10 news articles saying they think it may be on a scale of Savile. This is huge. Harrods have already reached financial settlements with the majority of people who've approached them since 2023. They're accepting vicarious liability for the actions of Fayed. For anyone who doesn't know, companies, we are vicariously liable for the actions of our employees. Harrods, the new owners, are not requiring employees to enter NDAs, so non-disclosure agreements, and they are utterly appalled, they say, by the allegations of abuse. Philip Green, top right, former BHS, British Home Stores owner, and Topman, Topshop, Dorothy Perkins, Burton, all in his retail empire. He allegedly subjected people working in his empire to abuse and highly inappropriate behaviour over a long period of time. He sought an injunction, but that was lifted by a judge, and a host of very serious allegations were then detailed in the Daily Telegraph. And then finally, the bottom right, that is a man called Ray Kelvin. He is the founder and chief executive, or was the chief executive of fashion chain Ted Baker. He resigned following allegations of misconduct, including a policy he had of forced hugging. So the reason why I've used the first slide again, and I've now given this slide, is to show the scale of this and how much it is still an issue in the workplace and in our society. Now, since the Me Too movement, that undoubtedly kick-started a lot of the cultural change we're seeing about how sexual harassment is viewed and treated in the workplace. So without a doubt, that did a lot to help change the culture surrounding it. And the political parties, industries, hospitality in particular, have recognised that a lot needs to be done about this. So that's the background, that's the context of why it's really been put under the microscope and why this new preventative duty has been brought in. So hopefully you found that interesting about the context. Again, just a bit back to school. What is it? So Section 26 of the Equality Act 2010 is what we look at for the harassment. And sexual harassment is when A engages of conduct of a sexual nature, and that conduct has the purpose or effect of violating an individual's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment. Some key points to note. It's important to remember that a person can be sexually harassed by someone of the same or a different sex. A single incident, one incident, can constitute sexual harassment. And a previously consensual relationship can, once one party has made it clear that they no longer want to be in that relationship, anything after that event will then be unwanted conduct of a sexual nature. Okay? Unwanted conduct. So the Equality Human Rights Commission, basically they say the word unwanted means unwelcome, uninvited. Okay? They also say, they describe unwanted conduct of a sexual nature as any unwanted verbal, non-verbal, or physical conduct of a sexual nature. It's not always physical, it can be verbal, it can be non-verbal, okay? It can be sending highly inappropriate images on WhatsApp, on Slack, on Teams, on Messenger. And as I say, single institute can constitute harassment, and sexual conduct that's been welcomed in the past can become unwanted. So conduct of a sexual nature, not limited to a physical workplace, okay? This is why we need to remember Christmas parties, socialising after work, all extensions of the workplace, okay? People sending messages on WhatsApp maybe a day, 2, 3 days after the Christmas party, extensions of the workplace. The conduct of a sexual nature can include a wide range of behaviours, so sexual comments, jokes, innuendos, In our scenario, maybe taking a colleague to a quiet area of the Christmas party, perhaps someone who's had quite a bit to drink, maybe there's an imbalance, you think that person has had a lot to drink, not sure they're in control of their actions, and I can see someone else has taken them to a quiet corner of the Christmas party venue. Think about people who are maybe perhaps vulnerable, particularly after they've consumed too much alcohol. Seeing someone give them a Christmas cuddle, maybe, seeing someone under the mistletoe, you need to be keeping an eye on that at the Christmas party. Suggestive looks, staring, leering, propositions, sexual advances, forcing people maybe to hug, kiss under the mistletoe, making promises in return for sexual favours, sexual gestures, sexual posts, contacts on social media. Again, thinking about after the Christmas party, I would certainly be circulating social media policies in advance of the festive season. Spreading sexual rumours about a person and sending sexually explicit emails, text messages, WhatsApp messages. And yeah, unwelcome touching, hugging, massaging shoulders, perhaps, kissing, suggestively touching a colleague's leg, perhaps, whilst driving to the Christmas party. Direct example taken from case law. So these things do happen. Remember, though, yeah, it's not just limited to the verbal words exchange. It applies to all of the online platforms. And remember, during the COVID-19 pandemic, it became apparent that online or other remote forms of sexual harassment were a significant problem. 45% of women surveyed by the Forset Society had experienced harassment online through sexual messages, cyber harassment, and sexual calls. Okay, so we also need to be thinking about circulating our social media policies before any parties. As I say, the legal update came into force on the 26th of October. We've now got this proactive duty to prevent sexual harassment, and it really is under the microscope, particularly in the festive party season, because it's just more high risk. New duty is anticipatory, okay? So we need to anticipate how staff may be sexually harassed and keep that under review. So again, your risk assessment, key document. And the new duty, if sexual harassment has taken place previously, we need to be taking action to show we are stopping it from happening again. Don't think of your risk assessment as your policies in this regard as being static. This is a work in progress that we are constantly reevaluating and monitoring, okay? We have got this new duty to take the reasonable steps, okay, to prevent it from happening. And our worst case scenario, if we get it wrong, employment tribunals have the power to uplift sexual harassment compensation by up to 25%, where an employee is found to have breached the new preventative duty, okay? Third-party harassment. Whilst the new law does not directly refer to third-party harassment, as originally had been proposed, we think that the wording is wide enough to include third-party harassment, okay? So when it says an employer must take reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment of employees in the course of their employment, we think that that wording is wide enough to include third-party harassment. Our reasonable steps, and again, just focusing our mind here to the Christmas party season, consider the risk of sexual harassment occurring. That risk is probably going to be quite high, well, very high, I would say, if you are asking colleagues to share hotel rooms after a Christmas party where alcohol is being consumed. Consider what steps can be taken to reduce risks and prevent the sexual harassment of workers. Again, perhaps paper taxis, minibuses, coaches, to and from the venues. Don't rely on people car sharing. Look for venues that are not so remote, okay? So make sure they're easy to get to via public transport or you're providing that transport, okay? Some more general examples. So make sure you are giving that signal that you are committed to preventing harassment in the workplace. Rolling out training from the top to the bottom. It is about the tone at the top, okay? Your SLT, your exec board need to be joining in this training and leading by example. I would say you get them to be circulating and reminding employees about policies that we have in place, particularly in advance of the Christmas party season. Make sure you have strong reporting procedures in place. Make sure that you've got your policies updated and that you are circulating those and that they also are under review. So our risk assessment for the Christmas party season. Make sure that you send a memo to all staff to remind them that whilst a Christmas party is a celebration of everything that's been achieved and an opportunity for us to socialise and let our hair down, it is still a work event, and as such, people need to behave accordingly. Attach the policies which you have in place with those which set out those expected behaviours and communicate them in advance. If you can email them, if everyone has an email account, email them. If perhaps you're in an organisation where that's not possible, whether you maybe have TV screens, how you communicate with your staff, do it, okay? If it's the office, if it's a notice board still, do it like that. If you have team meetings, perhaps if you're in a manufacturing environment, make sure you do it at that meeting. Emergency contacts, are those up to date? We've had real life examples where somebody, an employee, consumed too much alcohol, couldn't speak, we couldn't get into their phone. This isn't Forbes, by the way, I'm saying we as a universal on behalf of a client. And in terms of not them being able to access any data for how they could get home, it was then a matter of, well, who could we contact to say we need you to come and help us because unfortunately someone's had too much to drink and we need to get them home safely. So do you have emergency contact details in HR for everyone who's attending that event? If you are providing free drinks, we would say limit the free bar, but if you are providing them, limit them so that there isn't a risk that the staff can drink too much. So no shots, no double spirits. I would keep it to a very a limited menu, okay? If you're not providing food, it would be certainly wise to remind staff of this and, you know, make sure that they eat something prior to arrival so people aren't drinking on empty stomachs. The travel to and from the venue, document that you've thought about transport to and from the venue that you've chosen for your Christmas party. Are people able to get home safely? If there aren't any public transport links, do you need to ensure people have the telephone numbers of taxi companies that would usually pick up from that location? Be clear about when the party starts and finishes, okay? If individuals want to continue the party elsewhere, you know, if we want to say, well, that's not then a work-related event, you need to make it clear the parameters of the Christmas party. Perhaps make it clear carriages at 10 p.m, for example, okay? So everyone knows that's signalling the end of the party. Work WhatsApp groups, okay? Be mindful that if you do have a work WhatsApp group, it may not be appropriate for staff members to be sharing pictures from a Christmas party, okay? So again, thinking about our electronic communications policies, social media policies, I would be saying, you know, it would be sensible, maybe for a senior leader to change settings on a group, on a WhatsApp group for a short period of time to avoid any enthusiastic, shall we say, sharing of images, of photos. And finally, who's in charge at the Christmas party? Make sure that you have someone from your senior leadership team. Make sure you've got someone on hand to take charge if there are any issues, okay? I would say ideally that person isn't going to be drinking, and ideally you want it to be someone, really maybe not someone from HR, but someone who is in a position of authority, who people you know that they can approach at the event, after the event, if there are any issues. Make sure that's documented, make sure that's communicated to staff as well moving forward. So who remembers Dawn kissing Tim at the office Christmas party? Ricky Gervais's UK office. I absolutely love this programme, that's why I've used this, but Dawn and Tim, everyone wanted Dawn and Tim to get together, and finally they did at the office Christmas party. But this is a good reminder to make the point clear that, you know, many people do meet their partner in the workplace. There's no general legal rules preventing or governing relationships at work. However, the collision between the private and the public spheres can sometimes be an issue and a bit problematic from a management perspective, particularly maybe when you've got an imbalance of power, so someone much more junior to someone who's much more senior. So having individuals involved in a relationship working alongside each other can present some legal, practical concerns for employers. The consensual relationship agreement, or the love contract, as they typically refer to it in the US, that is something that's actually been a thing for quite a long period of time over in the States. But we are seeing more and more employees in the UK trying to seek to regulate personal relationships in the workplace. So we would recommend now it is a good idea to have a relationships at work policy, which sets out what the employer expects in such situations. So then basically it helps us again defend ourselves against any future problems. And again, we can refer to that in our risk assessment as well if we have a relationships at work policy. Without any relevant policy or rules in place to cover the situation, okay, the fact that a workplace relationship exists, that's not itself illegal or unlawful. But, you know, we would like to rely on a policy whereby we are saying if people are in a relationship, you know, to disclose it. So just disclose it to HR to make sure people are aware. And just so it, again, it assists us as the employer to make sure that we're setting out expected standards of behaviour and providing a framework for our line managers to deal with such situations, okay? So I would highly recommend having a relationships at work policy. But I appreciate in the last couple of minutes now of today's session, it is a fine balancing act. We don't want the picture on the left where everyone's looking boring and fed up and like they've been forced to go. But equally, we certainly don't want the picture on the right, do we? Where people are half naked, have clearly had far too much to drink and look like they are in a coma from alcohol consumption. So what can we do to in advance of the Christmas party to reduce the risk of claims? So get writing these down. Undertake a risk assessment, okay? I would do a bespoke one for the Christmas season. So it's vital in order to comply with the new duty to show that we're taking reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment. The guidance suggests that an employee will not be able to comply with the new preventative duty without undertaking a risk assessment, okay? That is why I'm saying this is so important. If there's one thing you remember to do from this webinar, do this. If a risk assessment has already been completed, we need to update it to include Christmas party season and any associated risks. We need to reference any previous complaints of sexual harassment that have happened at previous parties. In the run-up to what I describe as the higher risk periods, such as Christmas, New Year as well in some industries, identify the activities, the circumstances which pose a greater risk to staff of sexual harassment occurring. So, you know, such as unlimited alcohol at these informal social events, late night gatherings, events held at hard to get to locations, and just the practical things we're doing to minimise any risks in that regard. Think about as well, you know, consider alternatives maybe moving forward to the traditional Christmas party, such as, you know, team lunches, activity-based daytime socials, such as go-karting, sporting events. Think about maybe having a no alcohol policy or setting limits on the amount of alcohol served per person. You know, what about an earlier start time with an earlier finish time? The carriages at 10 p.m. That's a really good practical tip. And having events held at locations where we've got good bus, taxi, train links so people can get home safely and more easily. Make sure our relevant workplace policies are in place, up to date and circulated before the party, okay? Definitely your EDI sexual harassment policies. It's important to make it clear that this is an extension of the workplace, okay? So we need to make that clear. I would also address in that the possibility of third-party harassment, so harassment by clients, customers, for example, and explain what individuals need to do if they witness or experience sexual harassment, okay? So we need to make sure we outline what people do, how they report incidents of sexual harassment, what action, you know, needs to be taken, and the people involved in that process. Think about holding refresher training, okay? So prior to any company event, social, I would definitely be reminding people of the standards of conduct and behaviours that are expected of them. And you could even roll out a bit of refresher training in advance of that. It could be a video, you know, condensed video of previous in-person training they've done, but I definitely will be thinking about that. Make sure the training is aimed at all levels of professional hierarchy, okay? So it could be tailored differently to those with managerial responsibilities or at senior exec level. Also having one eye on, you know, potential allegations for abuse or misuse of power. Make sure that we are circulating, I say, a clear communication about what to do if anyone witnesses inappropriate behaviour. Make sure that your venue, consider access requirements now if you're not already, you know, any adjustments that need to be made for employees with disabilities or other restrictions, and make sure your venue's got, it's a venue that's easily accessible for all of your staff. Ensure that dietary requirements are catered for, okay? Make a provision for those who don't eat certain foods for religious reasons, perhaps. Consider issuing drink tokens, okay? Lots of clients we work with do this, so issue drink tokens or other ways of limiting free alcohol, and ensure that plenty of soft drinks are readily available. Drink driving should be positively discouraged, okay? If you've got a venue in a remote place, maybe consider as well making alternative travel arrangements for how people can get home. So minibuses, for example, coaches or reputable local taxi firms. As a final note, I know you'll all remember, but just make sure you invite workers who are not currently present in the workplace. So anyone on maternity leave, for example, or sick leave, to prevent those claims of discrimination. So despite the potential legal ramifications, the Christmas party, don't want this all to be doom and gloom. It really can be an amazing way to get everyone together, to increase morale at a time when, you know, it's been a tough year for everyone, not least from a cost of living perspective. And our Christmas party can make staff feel really valued and included. And by carefully preparing for the event, communicating clearly with our staff about expected standards of behaviour and considering the needs of all staff, the office party is likely to be a huge success. Okay, so thank you very, very much for coming today. I hope you all have a fabulous festive season. Let me know what the new fantastic venue, Day One Rights, is like, if anyone gets to go there. I'll let you know if anything happens with Angela Keir under the mistletoe. But thanks for all of your support this year, and I look forward to seeing you in 2025.